Well, as you know, here at Coast to Coast, we have what we call the floating format, which means at any given time we will change the direction of the show if there's breaking news or a major story that we want you to hear about right away. I was at a party this weekend, and so many people had come up to me to ask me about this incredible photograph that Richard C. Hoagland had posted on his enterprisemission.com. And lo and behold, after Friday, and Art did the program for me, I opened up my emails, and people are sending me emails on one specific topic, and that's this head on the moon. I've never received that many emails on one specific topic, and so I had to get Richard C. Hoagland back on to give us an update on this incredible story. Richard, are you getting the same kind of feedback we are here?
Yeah, and in spades, and there's an incredible, exciting discussion and debate going on over in the Enterprise Conference, which if people want to join, they just go to the Enterprise Mission website. They click on the conference at the very top. It takes them to a page. They can sign up. It's by subscription so that we keep the riffraff out, meaning people who are, very determined to kind of poke holes in anything that anyone tries to propose.
You mean the saboteurs?
Exactly. They're called trolls on the net. I think that's one term.
Yeah.
So that we have sane, interesting scientific discussions instead of name-calling. And even there, some people have crept in who I really think are paid agents, because it's like every time someone proposes a new reason why this is real, they will shoot it down with some kind of completely ad hominem attack. I'm trying to think what it was. Oh, the last one was, well, it's 250,000 miles away, and how are you ever going to know? Now, we spent billions and billions and billions of dollars, George, on the space program, right?
You got it.
We've sent space missions all over the solar system. 99.99% of the data that we acquire with tax dollars and publish in scientific journals vis-a-vis NASA, is remote sensing, meaning there isn't a chunk you can bring home and put in a laboratory. And there are all kinds of statements and conclusions and, theories that are supported based on that information. So it's a little bit disingenuous to say, well, since we don't have this thing in the lab, we'll never know what it really was. Two points. One is we don't know that it's not in a lab. I've had a lot of people say to me, do you think they actually brought it home?
They might have. They might have picked it up.
I really think, George, given the timeline and the transcript of what was going on at the Shorty crater at that time, that they actually could have, because all it would have taken is a nylon rope attached to the rover to basically, lower a guy in a spacesuit backwards, step by step down that gentle slope to get to it, to put it in a bag and then bring it back up again, hand over hand on a rope, because under 1/6 lunar gravity, rappelling down that slope would have been really easy if you had a rope and the rover to stabilize you.
Why is that picture appear blurry, Richard, when the Hasselblad photos that we've seen look crystal clear?
Well, because you haven't zoomed in on any particular details in the Hasselblads. When you take a normal film, picture with film, you have film grain. What we're doing, because we've got 8 separate shots of this thing, I'm in the computer very carefully superimposing the different views, one over the other, and that drives down the noise by the square root of the number of images that you can carefully superimpose. So I've been a tad busy, and I haven't had the chance to do what I love doing, which is sitting at the computer and putting this stuff together so we get the last bit of signal out of these images. But we will do that, and we will publish it, and you will see that the details you saw that almost knocked you out of your chair that night will be enhanced. I mean, to me, the most convincing thing about this, George, are the eyes.
Yeah, the irises in the eyes.
Those camera lens irises in both eyes looking so eerily like C-3PO. I mean, that did not pop out until I superimposed 2 of these Hasselblad images that Steve Troy was able to get out of NSSDC, which is the National Space Science Data Center at Greenbelt, Maryland, at the Goddard Space Flight Center. And when I supered those in the computer and stood back and looked, bingo, those camera lenses, those iris eyes popped out, and I just said, good grief, how can anybody argue that this isn't remarkable?
You have got to get me that picture of C next to the this robot head.
Okay.
You know, the cross picture you had?
I'm looking at it right now on the screen.
Let's get it to Tom. We'll get it to George Lucas to get his reaction
Wouldn't
to that.
Wouldn't that be cool?
I would love to do that.
Well, you know, because of Iapetus, I have suspected for some time, because of George Lucas's connections with Joseph Campbell, that Lucas was privy to some things that the rest of us may not be. I mean, this is just too eerily close. First of all, he creates a Death Star that looks like, you know, Iapetus, the moon of Saturn, right?
Right.
And then I find on the moon, in a place that no one would ever have imagined, except somebody who thinks beyond the edge of the paper for a living, something that looks eerily like C-3PO. Now, what are the odds? I mean, you're a guy that doesn't really believe in coincidence, George. What are the odds that a producer, even as brilliant as Lucas, could, out of the depths of his soul and his imagination, in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock, not listening to Coast, come up with this just by chance?
I know. I'm telling you, you showed a lot of things at Joshua Tree that were mind-boggling, but when this photo came up, I tried to tear it apart. I tried to just do whatever I could, just, not again, Richard, here we go. No, this one is too compelling. In terms of size, would you say it's about the size of a human skull?
I can not only say that, I can prove it. And I'm going to put that up on the Enterprise website for the conference people first, because, they were a little ticked off at me that I went on your show and I put it up on the main page of Enterprise, and the whole world got to see it before
But you promised me, and you delivered.
Well, I try to keep my promises. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that analysis in the next week or so and put it up on the Enterprise conference so that the people seriously discussing the pros and cons and what could have happened. And what I'm actually hoping is that by doing this way, that we might get somebody inside NASA who knows a lot more than we know now, who basically says, okay, enough is enough here, and slips us a disk with some really cool information. Because I know that this is not the best data that exists. That's what my astronaut contact, who I sent this shot to a couple of months ago, very matter-of-factly said. I mean, I can quote verbatim from his email. He said basically, when you get better data, come back to me, which told me that better data exists.
Which Apollo 17 astronaut took the photo? Was it Cernan or Schmidt? Who did it?
I have to go back and look at the timeline. I really think it was Schmidt, and the Cernan is visible over by the rover in the same set of shots, the panorama. But don't hold me to that, because they would exchange cameras. This was at the same place where they found the orange soil, remember? And they were all excited about that, and it was part of that photographic panorama that Schmidt was taking where he saw the soil. So I'm pretty sure it was Schmidt who took the picture and Cernan who then came over and looked at the soil. But again, I'll have to go back and actually look at the timeline to make sure.
Assuming that it is Schmidt still alive, can we get him this photo?
As part of some discussions that occurred on Sunday night after you and Tom had gone to bed at Joshua Tree.
Well, why don't you rephrase that?
Well, you guys went off, to your bungalows.
All right, good.
And
thank you.
Just trying to keep us all honest here.
Jeez.
And the rest of us stayed up discussing this until like 4 or 5 in the morning. And one of the people in that discussion group, and I'm not going to mention names because we need to be a little delicate here to protect sources, apparently knows both Schmidt and Cernan and volunteered in front of witnesses to get me a quiet meeting, so I can show them this image and basically say, okay, guys, what happened? And I